her. The woman who used to spray money at every party in Origin is now sitting in the dirt like she belongs there. Honestly, I cannot even look. It is too embarrassing. And she still has the nerve to wear that single bangle like it means something. That bangle is the only thing left from her old life. Everything else is gone. The house, the cars, the respect. She used to feed us in that big compound of hers. Now look, she cannot even feed herself. And she wants to sit here among us in that dress with those holes.
Look at her. The woman who used to spray money at parties is now wearing the market's leftover rags. The laughter of 4 women tore through the afternoon air like a blade, sharp enough to draw blood, loud enough to make heads turn from every corner of the compound. They pointed. They doubled over. They held their stomachs as if Zara herself were the funniest joke the town of Origin had ever told. And Zara sat there and took it. She sat on a small wooden stool in the middle of the dusty courtyard, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes low, her worn-out dress hanging off her frame the way a flag hangs in dead air. No breeze, no movement, just the unbearable stillness of a woman trying to survive the moment. The town of Origin was not a quiet place. It was a town that wore its wealth, the way a peacock wears its feathers, loudly, colorfully, and always making sure someone was watching. Here, the height of your head tie told people how far you had climbed. The weight of your gold told them how long you planned to stay at the top. And the brand of your SUV, parked just behind the compound fence, told them everything else they needed to know. Zara had once known all of this. She had once lived all of this. There was a time, not so long ago, when a lace alone could silence a room. When she walked into a gathering, people shifted. Chairs were offered. Greetings came first. She had been the one the others leaned on, the one they called when they needed help, the one they toasted when the night was good, and the palm wine was flowing. But that was before the warehouse fire swallowed everything her father had built. Before the accounts ran dry and the creditors came knocking. Before the friends she had fed at her own table picked up their designer bags and quietly disappeared. Now it was Lola who stood closest, finger extended, laughing the loudest. Lola, who had worn borrowed earrings to Zara's parties more times than anyone could count. Lola, whose children had eaten from Zara's kitchen. Behind her stood Halima, Nina, and Sola, each dressed in lace so bright it hurt to look at them directly. Gold stacked on their necks and wrists like they were auditioning for a royal court. They were a picture of everything Zara used to be, and they were using that picture to wound her. She used to carry a designer bag on each arm, Nina said, voice dripping. Now look, she can barely carry herself. More laughter, louder this time. Zara did not look up. She pressed her lips together and breathed slowly, the way a woman breathes when she is holding back something larger than words. She had learned, in these months of hardship, that some storms could only be survived by going very still. But the storm was not finished with her yet. What none of them knew, what even Zara herself could not yet see, was that destiny had already begun to move, quietly, without announcement, the way the most powerful things always do, and it was moving in her direction. It makes you wonder how many people in your life are only standing beside you because of what you carry, and not because of who you are. This story is not just about Zara. It is about every person who has ever been counted out, laughed at, or left behind by the very people they once called family. It is about what happens when a woman refuses to let someone else's cruelty write the ending of a story. Before we go on, I want to acknowledge you. The fact that you are here investing your time and attention makes all the difference in the world. If you are enjoying this, please support the channel with a like and a subscribe. It means more than you know. Now let us continue. Lola leaned in so close that Zara could smell her perfume. Expensive? The kind Zara herself used to buy without checking the price. You know what is funny? Lola said, loud enough for everyone around to hear. I used to be jealous of this woman. Can you imagine? The others exploded into laughter again. Halima covered her mouth, but her eyes danced with cruelty. Nina took a slow walk around Zara like she was inspecting something at a roadside market. Sola simply shook her head, clicking her tongue the way an elder does at a child who has failed. Not one of them looked ashamed. Not one of them remembered the soup Zara had cooked for their families. Not one of them remembered the school fees she had quietly paid when they could not meet up. They had erased all of it and replaced it with this. Zara walked home the long way, not because she wanted to, but because the long way was emptier, and emptiness was easier to bear than more eyes. Her hut sat at the edge of the compound, small and tired, its walls carrying the same exhaustion she felt in her bones. She sat on the floor because the only chair had a broken leg. She stared at the wall and let herself go back to that night, the night the warehouse burned. She had stood outside and watched the fire eat everything. Her father's lifetime of work, her own future, gone in one night. And the next morning she had called Lola. The phone rang and rang. She had called Alima. Same silence. She had called all four of them. Not one picked up. That was the night she understood that some friendships are only as strong as your last bank alert. She had one wrap of cold eBay left and nothing to put with it. She was staring at it, trying to decide if she should eat half now and save the rest when she saw him. An old man sitting outside her gate, his back bent, his clothes older than hers. He was not begging out loud. He was just sitting there, the way very tired people sit when they have stopped expecting anything. Something moved inside Zara. She divided her food into two and gave him the bigger half. The old man, who said his name was Tunde, ate slowly. When he finished, he reached into the folds of his wrapper and brought out a folded paper, brown with age. I have been looking for someone to give this to, he said quietly. The land is yours now. Do with it what God shows you. It was a deed for a swamp at the edge of town that nobody wanted. People laughed when they saw her there, a woman in torn clothing, standing in muddy water with a wooden stick, digging. Has poverty finally entered our head? Someone called out from the road. Zara ignored them. She had learned to treat laughter like rain. You did not stop moving just because it was falling. She dug and she tested and she mixed, the way her grandmother had once shown her, without knowing why she was being shown. And then one afternoon, after weeks of quiet work, and then she held up a handful of that pale clay, and something inside her went still in a different way. Not the stillness of pain, the stillness of recognition. She had seen this clay before, in a magazine, in a high-end cosmetics feature. It was rare, it was sought after, and it was sitting right here under her feet, in a swamp that the whole town had called worthless. Before we go on, just a heartfelt thank you. Your presence is not just a number. It is the soul of this channel. I am truly grateful you are here. If you want to keep these journeys alive, take a second to like and subscribe. It truly helps. Now, let us continue. And here is a question I want to leave with you. Have you ever had a moment where the very thing people laughed at you for turned out to be the door that changed your life? Drop it in the comments. Your story may be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Zara did not change her clothes. Not yet. She packaged her clay products carefully, labeled them under a name that was not her own, and sent them out into the world as the work of someone called the Veiled Merchant. The orders came slowly at first, then steadily, then all at once. She watched money return to her hands like something that had only stepped out briefly and was now coming back home. But she stayed in her rags, deliberately, because she wanted to know who would see her and still treat her well. She went to the market in a worn dress and watched how people spoke to her. She visited the compound where the Elite Four gathered and sat quietly at the edge of their conversations. Nobody offered her water. Nobody asked if she was well. Good, she thought. Let them keep showing me exactly who they are. The invitation arrived in an envelope that felt heavier than paper. Gold-edged, sealed with wax, addressed by name to each member of the Elite Four. You are cordially invited to the Centennial Gala, hosted by the celebrated philanthropist and business leader, known only as the Veiled Merchant. Lola read hers 3 times. Then she called Halima. Halima called Nina. Nina called Sola. Within an hour, all 4 of them were together, voices climbing over each other with excitement. A mystery billionaire. A gala. An invitation that most people in Origin had not received. This was the kind of event that could change your standing in a single evening. They booked appointments with the best tailors in town. They ordered new gold. They argued about who would look the most impressive. Not one of them stopped to ask why they had been chosen. Not one of them thought to be suspicious. They were too busy preparing to be seen. The hall was full of Origin's finest, candles and crystal, and the low hum of a string quartet. The Elite Four stood together near the entrance, satisfied with themselves, certain they were the most prepared people in the room. Then the music changed, slower, more deliberate. Every head turned toward the top of the staircase. And there she was. Zara descended 1 step at a time, wearing lace so fine it seemed to carry its own light. Her head tie was regal. Her jewels were quiet but serious. She moved with the ease of a woman who had long since stopped needing anyone's approval. The room responded before anyone spoke. A ripple of recognition passed through the crowd. Lola's smile dropped first. Then Halima's, then the others. Zara reached at the bottom of the stairs and looked at them directly for the first time in months. She did not smile. She simply said, "Good evening." And the room understood that something important had just shifted. It was after the dinner, when the crowd had thinned and the soft music had quieted, that Zara asked her guests to remain seated. A man in a dark suit entered carrying a leather folder. He placed it on the table in front of Lola, then in front of Halima, then Nina, then Sola. "What is this?" Lola asked, her voice thinner than usual. "Those are documents," Zara said calmly. "The loan you took from First Continental Bank 3 years ago was bought by an investment group last year. That group is mine." The silence that followed was a different kind of silence, not the silence of peace. The silence of people suddenly understanding the weight of what they had done. Lola opened her mouth and closed it again. Zara watched her without anger. The fire that had once burned in her chest had long since settled into something cooler. Something that looked, from a distance, almost like power. If this story has moved you, then you already know what to do. Hit the like button and help more people find stories that remind them that life has a way of completing its own sentences. And if you are not yet part of this community, subscribe now and join a growing family of people who believe that the last chapter is never the one where you fell. It is always the one where you rose. Zara stood before them and spoke without raising her voice. "I am not here to destroy you," she said. "I am here because I needed to see this moment for myself, not for revenge, for closure." She told them she was clearing their debts, all of them, not because they deserved it, but because she refused to spend another day of her life tied to the memory of their cruelty. "You pointed at me," she said quietly, "and in doing so, you pointed me toward everything I was meant to become." She did not invite them to her next chapter. That door was closed, gently but completely. She simply wished them well, the way you wish someone well when you mean it, but know your roads have finally separated. As she walked out of that hall, she felt nothing heavy, only the clean, open feeling of a woman who had finally, fully put herself down. And if you think Zara's story ended there, wait until you hear about the woman who smiled through her own funeral, went home that night, and woke up the next morning as the most powerful person in the room. Turn on your notifications. That story is coming, and you do not want to miss it. To every person listening who has ever sat on their own version of that stool, who has felt the fingers pointing and heard the laughter rising, this is for you. You are not behind, you are not forgotten, and you are certainly not finished. The season you are in right now is not the verdict. It is the preparation. Stay in it. Do the quiet work. Let the people who counted you out keep their distance. Because the day is coming when the room will turn, and the music will change, and you will walk down your own staircase into the life that was always meant for you. You do not need their validation to begin. You never did.